Interviews with business owners and veteran executives who share their wisdom and expertise to help you de-stress, free up time, and make more money. Profits of IT. Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I am Jim Punzenberger, your host and the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. If you're looking to generate leads and appointments without cold calling or ad spend, check out managedprospectingsystem.com. I have Gary with me today. Gary, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the company that you work for?
Well, my name is Gary Coben. I'm the Senior Vice President of Channel Services for Evolve IP. We are a remote workforce solution company focused in three core competencies. We enable full integrated PBX solutions with both Microsoft Teams and Cisco WebEx. We are a contact center platform provider specifically for people that have deployed or are committed to either Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx. And our third core competency is all around cloud computing, and primarily desktop as a service that's either provisioned privately in our environment or provisioned over Microsoft Azure's network. And that should do it, Jim. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, so why don't you tell us something interesting about yourself outside of work?
Man, I'll tell you, what's interesting about me is last week I turned 60 years old. With that, I'm still hanging in there. I got some gas in the tank still,
Yeah,
but
60 is like the new 40, isn't it?
I hope you're right. I'll tell you that much. I hope you're right. It seems to me that just yesterday I was starting my career, which was some 40 years ago at this point.
Yeah, and you're still having fun in the channel.
There's no question about it. Still having fun, still love talking to people, still love, still like, to make sure that we're giving people solutions. And there's a lot of, post-COVID, there's a lot of challenges in the marketplace.
Yes, there is. So, Gary, what would you say is your superpower when it comes to business, and how can others learn from that and apply that in their businesses and their lives?
I think, especially as it pertains to our businesses, to understand and I think every generation has one or two defining moments. For this generation, it was 9/11, which changed not only the travel industry, but clearly changed the security marketplace as we know it today. And then COVID, right? I mean, right. Prior to COVID, 20% of the people were like me. They traveled a lot. And 80% of the employees worked from the office. And now that's completely flip-flopped, where you have 80% of people working from home and 20% of the people working from the office. And that's created a lot of challenges in terms of how do we communicate? How do we collaborate? How do we design an IT strategy, if you will, that's not based around four walls, right? So I think the superpower that we look to deliver is to try to provide solutions to people to accommodate their voice, their collaboration, their customer experience, contact center, and the whole concept of IT. IT in an environment that's not based on a PC with a virtual private network. Right. So lots of opportunity out there in the partner community in helping clients to now have a remote first strategy. And I think that's
first.
Yeah, if I could add one thing to that, Jim, that I think is important is that companies that had previously adopted a sort of a cloud strategy, for kind of throwing that around, were certainly more equipped to deal with that, memo we all got in March 2020, which said, get out, right? Those that were stubbornly holding on to, a phone system based in the office and a PC network based in the office.
Yep.
They struggled.
On the desk.
They struggled. So there's an opportunity now. I think certainly IT professionals got a pass during COVID. But as we go into 2022, good enough is no longer good enough. It should come as no surprise that along with the let's not test it, let's deploy it, we've also seen the largest influx of big security breaches than this country's ever seen.
Right.
And that has
and
so much
increasing ransoms too.
Yeah. I mean, and what, if you send your employees home and say, use your kid's PC in an unsecured fashion, we know what the end result's going to be. So simply stated, I think the opportunity that exists for the partners is helping their customer counterparts to understand that good enough is just not good enough going into 2022.
And how can they can you elaborate on that? Like what can they do specifically to make sure that it's what they're doing is better than good enough?
Well, let's kind of talk through that a second here. First of all, you have this whole concept of I still need to collaborate with my employees and various work groups. So we've seen a significant adoption for solutions like Microsoft Teams, for things like Zoom, for things like Cisco WebEx. And of course, as people have deployed those solutions, it hasn't been done. A lot of times it hasn't been done proficiently. But we would expect that adoption to continue. What's interesting about that is that as people are slowly returning to the office, what we're seeing is, well, they still have that phone system that they had before COVID. Now they've got 3/4 of the company using Teams, and somebody brought a Zoom meeting software. Now, we would expect that since all three of them can really act as the main collaboration tool, there will in fact be a consolidation, right? Meaning that I'm going to have one solution for collaboration, for meetings, for chat, for video, for information storage, and for my phone system. So I think that your community wants to be thinking about how do they help their clients and their coworkers consolidate on one standard solution for collaboration. Now, the whole IT infrastructure, that's going to get exploded too. Right? Gone are the days where I'm going to have 200 PCs connected into a local area network, accessing servers that are in the closet behind me. Right? We've seen an explosion of customers moving to public cloud like AWS,
Azure.
like Azure, like Google Cloud. I think we're going to continue to see that, right? I think what's most interesting that a lot of people have told me is that they've seen this significant increase in people migrating their infrastructure to data centers. And I think that that's just the beginning phase. So instead of, gee, it's in my closet, now I've forklifted it and moved it over to some data center, but I still have the same problems I've always had. In 6 years, I'm going to have to replace it. I got maintenance issues, and when it doesn't work at 3:00 in the morning, they're still calling me. And that's why I think we're going to continue to see not only cloud infrastructure continue to migrate, but now desktop infrastructure. We really see that 2022 will be the year of the virtual desktop. Because everybody's now thinking about disposable IT, right? So that whole adage of, if I can, instead of having a $2,000 MacBook, can I run it on a $200 Chromebook? Right. So when you spill coffee on your $200 Chromebook, the answer is, well, dispose of it
Throw it away.
environmentally and go get a new one.
Yeah.
The guy that has the $2,200 MacBook, they got the blow dryers out trying to dry it, right?
Right.
So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that, companies are now whether they expect that they're going to be remote forever or not. If you have a remote first strategy, whether you're remote or not, now you're ready for the next, God forbid, next pandemic.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes, that makes sense to me. So if I'm an MSP, what can I do to prepare for this? So I should be, have solutions in place to deploy virtual desktops.
I think the MSP model of supporting hardware and supporting. I mean, it's virtually almost impossible now in our new normal. I mean, how's an MSP going to support a company that 80% of its employees are dispersed all over the place? It's not really possible. That's some of the bigger challenges facing IT organizations today. Is you've got people now working on disparate clouds, and some, not everybody's got that gigabit home internet connection, right? So you've got disparate clouds, disparate networks, a variety of different hardware. The days of bring your PC to the help desk and drop it off and we'll have it fixed up for you in a couple hours are really over. And compound that with the fact of, guess what you can't buy? There's no PCs. I don't know, you've been at Best Buy lately? There's nothing in the stores anymore. Great news for the PC industry, not so great for people that are relying on that.
Right. Got it. So I guess 30-second elevator pitch. Who should do business with Evolve, and why should they do business with you?
So we focus on the mid-market and enterprise clients. So that's typically 250 employees and above. One of the big things that we are focused on is clients that have decided that they're fully going to adopt either the Microsoft or the Cisco ecosystem, right? So fully committed to Office 365, fully committed to Teams, and interested in turning Teams into both an enterprise telephony
Uh-huh.
system as well as collaboration and meeting solution. That's one big area of focus for us. The other big area of focus with us is, again, that CIO that's thinking about where's my, I can't keep buying PCs and deploying PCs with my shrinking IT staff and my employees that are scattered all over the place. There's got to be a better way, and that better way is really deploying desktop as a service. It's that, and now with the ability for us to do it privately or publicly over Azure, creates a real unique opportunity. Again, I think most IT professionals, in fact, it's interesting. We started this thing asking me what's unique, and turning 60 was pretty unique for me.
Yep.
A quick story. My 30-year-old daughter works for Evolve IP. Now, there's a lot of ways that I feel old, but walking into the office and having somebody say, "Hi, Dad," that makes you feel old. She could care less about the company giving her that 7-pound refurbished Dell PC. She's got her own device.
Uh-huh.
We have to accept the fact that the people that we're trying to hire today, they're coming with their own stuff, right? With their own AirPods. They don't want a phone, right? They want to come into the office with their whatever device that they have.
Yep.
They want to plug it in, or they want to get to it. Everybody wants to get to everything over the internet.
Yes.
That's what Office 365 delivered. That's what Teams delivers. That's what Desktop as a Service delivers. The ability to use any device, and all you really need is a connection to the internet. Now, when this business started, the pushback we used to get from people is, what if I'm somewhere where there's no internet? Do you know we never hear that anymore? Right? No one ever does that.
Right.
I can tether my mobile phone and get to the internet. But that used to be I'd love to do it, except if I don't have a connection to the internet. And unless we're broadcasting to somebody, in the far reaches of the Alaskan tundra, I can't think of anything that doesn't have internet these
Right.
days.
And they could even still have internet through the satellite. So
there you go. There you go. So there's really some unique opportunities, I think, that exist to get IT professionals out of that endless cycle of procuring, deploying, maintaining, providing desk side support, and ultimately replacing. Right? That's that whole cycle. Now I can deliver my full desktop voice and collaboration experience over any device connected to any internet connection. Not only is that and I can do it in a secure fashion too.
mm-hmm.
Not only is that a more attractive strategy, it does sort of protect you in the event of that next catastrophic event. Make sense?
Makes sense. So how would somebody go about getting a hold of you if they wanted to contact you?
Well, two ways. We have a big team over here at Evolve IP, but if anybody that's listening wants to reach out to me, have a conversation, G Coben, Coben, first name G as in Gary, G Coben at evolveip.net, all right, or 610-230-0029, or visit us on our website, evolveip.net.
Got it. Any closing remarks before we wrap up here?
I think I just think that, you know, like I said earlier, I really believe that we will look back 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now and see how the pandemic changed our life, both personally and professionally. Um, I personally don't think we will ever go back to the way it was. And what's the lesson to be learned? Be prepared. Be prepared for the fact that, you know, that it's probably not going to go back. And now, you know, combine that with the fact that we've really got to compete for employees these days. Um, so the person that wants to work from home isn't the exception anymore. That's probably the rule. So I think my parting words of wisdom are get ahead of it, understand that the challenges that you might have in IT, in collaboration, in telephony, um, are primarily due to the fact that it'll just never be the way it was. And there are ways and there are technologies that enable businesses, companies, your customers to get ahead of that,
Uh-huh.
to be prepared, and to provide it's time for us all to embrace these technologies that in the past, for whatever reason, I think you mentioned earlier, MSPs. MSPs, I think one of the things interesting about the MSP community is whether your desktop is a physical desktop or your desktop is a virtual desktop, still got to have the same IT resources.
Right.
That's one of the misnomers out there, is that a lot of these technologies replaces IT people, and it doesn't. Same requirements. So I would encourage everybody, especially your MSPs, to embrace these technologies, and to get your customers prepared by migrating them away from hardware-based solutions.
Got it. Cool. So, really it's ultimately be in the cloud. That's what it comes down to is.
I think so. And again, I'll point out to the fact that those people that were already there, was it fun? I mean, it's so funny. Jim, and I bet you can do the same thing. Think back to March, when we were first told, don't come into the office.
Uh-huh.
I thought, well, that's probably good for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I certainly didn't think it was going to be
2 years,
10 months, 15 months. I think most people would admit that they didn't expect it to be as long. And I think they're still asking, between what we've seen with the variants and all the other things that are out there. Again, I think about change of, the changing of the way of life, the way we used to know it. I was in Las Vegas last week for the Channel Partners show, and wanted to eat in a restaurant. You had to show your vaccine card.
uh-huh.
And that's probably going to go on for some time. And that's pretty different. So if it's changing in our personal lives, rest assured it's changing in our business lives. And I believe that customers are looking for solutions. They're looking for trusted advisors to help guide them to more cloud-based solutions, more internet-enabled solutions, more solutions that aren't reliant on hardware, so that they're prepared. Because I believe everybody deep in their heart doesn't think this was the first or the last time we're ever going to see an incident like the one that just took place.
Mhm. Got it. Well, thank you for your time, Gary. It's been great having you on here and to hear your wisdom and knowledge. So
Jim, I do
thank you.
appreciate it. Again, just for any of your listeners out there, you just want to have a conversation, by all means, feel free to give me a call. You mind if I repeat that one more time?
Sure, go ahead.
610-230-0029, or drop me a note, Coben, Coben, at evolveip.net. Would love to continue this conversation with any of your listeners.
There you go. Give Gary a call or send him an email.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Until next time on the Prophets of IT, I am Jim Punzenberger, your host, the creator of the Managed Prospecting System. If you like to generate leads and appointments through hyper-personalized outreach, check out managedprospectingsystem.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Prophets of IT. Please smash that like button, subscribe, and share.